From one of the biggest names in the animation industry and being a dude who has his own actual fan base, to being a guy mostly forgotten about and hated by those who remember him. This is the story of Butch Hartman. Before we get into his fall, it's important to establish what made him famous to begin with. Born in 1965, Elmo Earl Hartman, also known as Butch Hartman, in 1987 graduated from the
California Institute of the Arts.
Before graduating, he actually got a job as an in-between animator for the 1986 Universal Pictures film, An American Tale, an animated movie directed by Don Bluth about a family of mice emigrating from Russia to America, seeking out freedom. And then, after someone in the industry saw a student film he made during his final year of college, Butch Hartman landed a job at Marvel Productions, but not on a show about Spider-Man or the Avengers. No, he was hired as a character designer and storyboard artist for the 1986 My Little Pony show, which, by the way, isn't anything to be embarrassed by. Yes, it only lasted for 2 seasons, and wasn't the MLP show that many people would end up loving, but a lot of people do like ponies. With that said, however, Butch would soon get fired from the show because he couldn't draw the ponies very well, but it was an experience he would then look back on as something that taught him multiple things, one of which being a lesson about quality control.
So there's a scene where one of the ponies with wings is hanging off of a cliff. And she's going, "Help! Help!" And she has wings.
Eventually, in the 1990s, he got a job at the animation studio Hanna-Barbera and found himself working on some pretty notable Cartoon Network shows and franchises, including Tom and Jerry on the kidified version of the show, Tom and Jerry Kids, Dexter's Laboratory, and Johnny Bravo, a show he would proudly look back on his involvement with, describing it as a blast and super cool. And in 1997, Butch Hartman had a cameo in the best thing he would ever have anything to do with, The Weird Al Show.
Pizza.
He also had involvement in the movie Scooby-Doo and Arabian Nights, Pocahontas, and even the adult animated sitcom Family Guy, created by his friend Seth MacFarlane, for which he contributed to 8 episodes in the beginning age of the series, and shockingly was also the inspiration for the Family Guy character Dr. Hartman. Very subtle. I'm bringing all of this up to say that Butch Hartman has had involvement in many things over the years, but the show that his involvement in would lead to one of the biggest successes in the animation industry was Nickelodeon's Oh Yeah Cartoons. It was basically a show in the late 1990s and early 2000s that consisted of multiple animated pilots that eventually became actual TV shows. Butch Hartman contributed to Oh Yeah Cartoons by making the well-known, iconic Dan Danger. Yeah, this one never actually took off and became a show, but it's pretty interesting to see an old pilot by Butch Hartman that never got picked up. It's basically about a TV actor who has a show where he plays a very brave character, but is a massive wimp when the cameras are off. But Butch Hartman also went on to make another pilot for Oh Yeah Cartoons that would not only become a show, but also the biggest show he's ever made, the Fairly OddParents. The show is about Timmy, an average kid who no one understands. You know how it goes. But if you don't, basically, he's a kid who has an evil babysitter named Vicky, and is always down on his luck, until one day he is given his own fairy godparents, and they grant wishes. But there's a book of instructions they must follow when giving him his wishes. One of those instructions being that they cannot just give Timmy money even if he wishes for it, because that would technically be counterfeit. Another major instruction is that if other people find out a godchild has fairy godparents, that kid will have the fairies taken away. Keep that in mind. Aside from Vicky, the other main villain in the show was a guy named Kwako, who was basically a teacher at Timmy's elementary school, who was constantly trying to catch fairies and prove to people that they exist. The Fairly OddParents debuted as its own series in 2001 and became a massive hit. For a while, basically being Nickelodeon's second SpongeBob, at least until The Loud House would eventually come along. Butch Hartman was on an incline and became a household name, and this peak would continue as he created another animated series for Nickelodeon, which would debut in 2004. Danny Phantom. It's a show about Danny Fenton, a teenage boy who becomes half ghost and gets his own superpowers in an accident. And he then becomes a superhero, but he can't tell his parents because they hunt ghosts. And while being a superhero, he also has to deal with high school problems like dating, bullying, etc. There is a machine at his parents' house that allows him to travel to another dimension called the Ghost Zone. And the show basically followed Danny and his friends fighting against many evil ghosts, including, but not limited to, the Box Ghost, Technus, a technology-themed villain, Ambo, a singing ghost, whom I will have to mention again in a bit, and Vlad Plasmius, his arch nemesis who is very wealthy, hates Danny's father, and is in love with his mom. There was also Dark Danny, an evil alternate future version of Danny Phantom that they made an entire big epic special about, the ultimate enemy. The show became a massive hit, becoming Butch's other biggest show aside from the Fairly OddParents. But despite this, Danny Phantom only lasted 3 seasons. And although seasons 1 and 2 were loved by the fans, a lot of them criticized season 3 for having a significant drop in quality. And the final episode, Phantom Planet, was hated on for being an unsatisfying and badly written finale. And it never officially came out why Nickelodeon canceled it, but the leading theory as to why Danny Phantom got canceled had to do with Butch Hartman, allegedly, over budgeting and spending too much money on the show, while not delivering on promises to the executives. But not everything was doom and gloom in Butch Hartman land, as he had another new show picked up that then debuted in 2010. Tough Puppy. It premiered on the same day as Planet Sheen. Not an important fact, I just think it's kind of funny. It was a comedy show that follows Dudley, a dog who becomes a spy for the agency Tough. And it wasn't anything terrible, I kinda liked it, and it did get 3 seasons like Danny Phantom, but it never actually got much of an actual fanbase like Danny Phantom did. But hey, the Fairly OddParents was still going on, and it lasted on TV for an impressive 16 years and 10 seasons. Though, like Danny Phantom, many people believe the quality of the show began going downhill around the time of seasons 6 and 7. As the script writing in the show went downhill, it started introducing and focusing on brand new characters that would become hated by previous fans of the show, especially the character Chloe, who was a kid introduced in season 10 that Timmy now suddenly had to share his fairy godparents with. And also visually, the show went downhill, as it went from traditional animation to flash animation in season 10. And remember what I said about how if other people find out a godchild has fairy godparents, they will then be taken away? Yep, so much for that, I guess. And in 2017, another animated show by Butch Hartman debuted on Nickelodeon, Bunsen is a Beast, which many people hated on, for basically being an unfunny Butch Hartman SpongeBob clone, and a show that had a theme song and voice acting that could actually give you a headache. And it only lasted for 1 season. So yeah, at this point, his television fame and success was definitely declining. But in the 2010s, he would end up finding another type of success: online. In 2015, the official Butch Hartman YouTube channel was created, where he would start uploading mini videos, talking about fun facts about his shows and his many experiences at Nickelodeon, Disney, etc. This was seen as a big deal at the time. A big name in the animation industry coming to YouTube and talking to his many fans, and giving all of us an inside scoop, a look behind the scenes. And to many people, he seemed like a pretty likable guy. His channel would gain a pretty big following, gaining over 500,000 subscribers. He made many videos of himself drawing stuff and giving tips and advice to people that want to make their own shows. Around this time, a fan campaign had begun picking up steam to bring back Danny Phantom, and one of the most popular videos he uploaded to his channel was one where he drew his Danny Phantom characters grown up and gave his ideas for what a continuation of the series could be like if it was set 10 years after the original show ended. And he even made a couple sequels to this video as well. In 2015, Butch Hartman came out with his own iPhone app, the Noog Network. It doesn't still exist anymore as it got shut down in 2021, and some of its content has become lost media. But it was basically an app for kids where you could play games and unlock basically low-budget TV show pilots made by Butch Hartman. Some of them were live action and some of them were animated. But how was the quality of these pilots? Well, I'm glad you asked. The app consisted of many brilliant animations, like one called the Booger Brothers, which was about two Booger Brothers that are living in someone's nose until one of them gets picked. Butch also came out with a book in 2017, Butch Hartman Sketchbook 1, Stuff I've Drawn or Am Drawn To, and there has still yet to be a Sketchbook 2. Other notable videos he'd upload to his channel were multiple videos that he had animated by Koro the Artist, whose channel is now known as The Ink Tank, a YouTuber and up-and-coming creator who was well known for his fan-made comic book that was a crossover continuation of Danny Phantom and Ben 10. And in 2017, Butch Hartman started a podcast named Speech Bubble, where he would talk about his experiences in the industry, like on his main channel, but while also talking to other people in the industry. And man, he loves the color blue. Butch Hartman was on top. But then, two massive controversies would happen that would leave a bad taste in many people's mouth. I'm gonna talk about the Danny Phantom one first because not only does it happen before the other one did, but this one was not at all Butch Hartman's fault. There was nothing he could have done to prevent it. But it is a very notable thing that happened and is unfortunately tied to his creative output, so I kinda have to talk about it. Randy Stair was a YouTuber in his 20s who, at a young age, had multiple people close to him sadly pass away. A man who once described death as an escape for him and became obsessed with Danny Phantom, the TV show, but specifically fell in love with Embo, the villain in the show I mentioned earlier in this video. This YouTuber believed that when he eventually died, he would become a ghost very similar to the character, despite it just being a fictional character. He also became obsessed with the Columbine Massacre, and he eventually began expressing a hatred for humanity, especially black people and gay people. To most individuals, all of this would seem like the troubling ramblings of someone who is mentally ill, but it would end up becoming not only troubling, as a tragedy happened on June 8th, 2017, when he shot 3 employees at a grocery store and then himself. What makes this even more tragic is that it could have been prevented, as his mental state was visible to anyone paying attention, on YouTube, among his coworkers, and even to the teachers he claims did nothing about him as a kid, often fantasizing about death. And despite being obviously insane, he was able to legally purchase not 1, but 2 shotguns. But anyways, let's talk about a less heavy topic. Scamming people. In February 2018, Butch Hartman made an announcement on his YouTube channel.
I am leaving Nickelodeon. This is not clickbait. This is not a joke. This is completely 100% serious. I have reached a decision, and it's just time to go. These things happen in careers.
Then in June 2018, Butch Hartman came out with a Kickstarter, which is basically a public funding website for a new streaming service he wanted to make, known as Oaxis Entertainment, describing it as a new subscription-based entertainment platform designed to reconnect the family. Butch and his team announced that they wanted to get people in his audience to give him $250,000 for the new streaming service that he promised would focus on specifically family-friendly content, and would have a ton of stuff on it, would be on every type of device, would have everything from sitcoms, animation, gardening shows, news coverage, and would even have a user upload feature, allowing people to upload family-friendly videos, kind of like what people do on YouTube. He was shooting for the moon and back, and promising that Oaxis would have something for every type of family. But when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. While people on YouTube still wanted to like Butch because of all the TV shows he created and the good name he had built up on the websites, people quickly became critical and suspicious of Oaxis, as people took issue with many things about it. For one, throughout this campaign, Butch began showing signs of being an egotist, someone who lets all of the fame get to his head and thinks he can do anything and people should worship him. As an example, look at some of the things that you could get for donating to the campaign. For $500, you could get one custom drawing by him. For $1,000, you could become a student at a drawing academy he was promising to eventually make, which is another project in and of itself. And for $5,000, you could get access to a 1 hour long video call, not even one-on-one, with Butch Hartman. Also, throughout the campaign, he was constantly doing what many politicians often do. And by that, I mean saying a lot and nothing at the same time. Aside from saying there would be no negative subject matter, he never actually defined what he meant by family-friendly, which is a problem when that is being advertised as one of the main reasons why someone should donate to it. What if what Butch Hartman deems family-friendly is something that another parent views as inappropriate? You cannot possibly promise entertainment that every family will enjoy. And what does he mean by no negativity? Most TV shows have antagonists. Those are usually pretty negative characters. His own show, The Fairly OddParents, had anti-characters. And how is he gonna have a show that talks about the news but avoids negative topics? The news is very negative. A lot of bad stuff happens. And how would it be decided what videos are appropriate enough for people to upload? YouTube has an entire algorithm and team, yet many bad things are still able to get uploaded to YouTube Kids. People also felt like he was in way over his head. Not only is $250,000 a lot of money to ask from an audience that mostly consisted of kids, teens, and young adults, but even if it wasn't, that still is definitely not enough money to make an entire streaming service. You have to hire people to design the websites, people to make the shows. You gotta fund the creation of the shows. You gotta have money to buy already existing shows to have on the website, like what made Netflix become very big. And speaking of needing a team, who is even going to be on the team that makes Oaxis a thing? The only people the campaign ever mentioned were basically just Butch Hartman himself and his wife, Julian Hartman. On the final day of the campaign, Butch uploaded a video that would become infamous for having very manipulative language. A video titled, "Deleting This in 24 Hours." In the video, he says, "All I need is 600 people to give me $99, as if that isn't a lot of money. And he says, if you guys can see it in your house and just know that what we're doing is something super special, if you can just feel what I'm all about and know what I want to do. If you loved what I did at Nickelodeon, if you loved the things I brought to you then, if you trusted me with your childhood, won't you trust me with your future?" Despite all of this though, it did get completely funded on June 17th, 2018. But although this was a huge financial victory, Butch's public image would take a huge hit, as during and after this campaign, many controversies, small and big, would come to light, showing people who he actually is. One of these controversies was a moment from an episode of his podcast, where he was talking to Tara Strong, the voice of Timmy in the Fairly OddParents, and he brought up how the original voice of Timmy passed away due to suicide, and then seemingly blamed it on Tara Strong.
But Tara was not the original Timmy Turner. The original actress was Mary Kay Bergman, who sadly passed away. But she was
such a sweet, sweet lady.
Sweet lady. Mm-hmm. She also did a bunch of voices on South Park when that first started. Yeah. She was the mom on South Park.
No, she had a very prolific career. She was awesome.
Doing great, and then she ended up passing away, and I think Tara actually had something to do with that, and so that was probably your fault. No, I'm kidding.
A video began spreading online of someone asking him during a live stream what he thought of a meme about Oaxis, and then he just began hating on the guy who was asking the question.
Someone says, "What do I think of the Oaxis Family Guy meme?" Oh, I'm not even going to look at it because it's the question's being asked by. Dueling is true. I'm not even going to look at it, and I don't care. Because you know why? Whenever you put yourself out there to do anything, there's always someone that's going to try and bring you down because they've never done anything on their own. And so if someone wants to do something and they want to ask me questions like that, that's one thing. But if someone doesn't do anything and they want to criticize, then I have no time for them. So the person that asked that question, whose name will not be mentioned ever by my lips, I just want to tell all people like that, as I get back to safety here, that if you guys can't do it yourselves, you shouldn't criticize anybody else. You really shouldn't. As many things I've done in my life, like being a father, being a husband, being a guy who's in his 50s who's a boss, a guy who's done shows, a guy who's stayed up late at night working really hard, to answer questions from people who've never done anything and they want to criticize. It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh. It's like, really? That's your question?
And another very bad-looking video of him began getting traction, in which he says people who criticize him are weak, and acts like he is some type of powerful god that is unbeatable, saying, "You think you are gonna take me down?"
So I look at people that critique as weak. Weak rhymes with critique. So, if you're gonna critique hey, this is never gonna work or whatever, then I just say, you know what, let's see you try it, and then we'll see how you do. So go ahead and critique away, because all it does is make me stronger. If you guys think you're gonna knock me down or make me fail, do you know who you're dealing with? Do you really know? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? What I've been up against already as a father and a husband and someone who's worked in Hollywood for 30 years, and you are going to take me down? What, are you kidding? That's kind of a joke, I think. So good luck. Good. Best of luck, everybody.
And throughout the campaign, one question he was asked a ton of times was if Oaxis would be an LGBT accepting streaming service. Because Butch is a Christian, and many Christians are not pro-LGBT. And it's a pretty logical question for people who want to back the campaign to ask, because he did say Oaxis would have something that appeals to every family. So does that include non-traditional families where someone might, for example, have two moms? It's an easy question to answer, but he never did. And then, after the campaign ended and got fully funded, a video popped up online of Butch giving a speech at some type of Christian event, in which he said many damning things. Not only did he say depression wasn't even a thing when he was a kid, and blamed it on all the media we consume nowadays, but also talked about how he is gonna make Oaxis a Christian streaming service, and said Oaxis is going to be the way that they can influence the youth and make young people become Christians, and said if he wanted to make a streaming service just for Christians, he could make one, but he wants to appeal to everyone. And I myself have nothing against someone wanting to make a Christian streaming service. In fact, I am someone who believes in God and Jesus. The issue is that nowhere in the campaign did he ever say Oaxis is going to focus on pushing Christian beliefs. All he said said was family friendly. And he was so vague intentionally so that he could trick anyone who might have otherwise been hesitant into giving him money. And that is just blatantly dishonest and scummy. And the Bible also makes it obvious what God thinks about lying to people. Speaking of Christianity, there are many different types of Christianity. What one does he prescribe to anyways? You guys are going to want to sit down for this one. What Butch and his wife are members of is the Bethel Church in California, and prescribe to the teachings of the TV evangelist Andrew Womack, a man who is infamous for saying some very insane stuff about disabled people and people who are LGBT, even saying that smoking is less bad than being gay, and gay people should have labels on their heads, and people who are disabled are not of God. The main belief that makes the Bethel Church what it is what's known as the Seven Mountains Mandates. Basically, they believe that it is their mission to make it so that their idea of what Christianity is becomes what is in control of business, government, family, religion, media, education, and entertainment. No other types of faith, not even other types of Christianity. And so, with this in mind, it seems like the idea behind Oaxis is becoming easy to make sense of, given how entertainment is one of the seven mountains. And possibly one of the most dangerous aspects of this type of Christianity is how much it pushes what I previously mentioned, known as faith healing. Basically, they believe people can be healed of many things: sickness, disability, and even brought back to life, if you just pray to God and believe that it will happen. This can be very damaging to people who are going through stuff. Case in point, #WakeUpOlive. In December 2019, a mother's 2-year-old child, Olive, passed away. And as you can imagine, the mother was very, very saddened by it. But she was also a member of the Bethel Church. And when Olive passed away, the mother asked people online to pray to God about the situation. And soon after, a #WakeUpOlive trend began, where for 6 days, instead of comforting the mother and actually helping with the grieving process, they prayed and sang and danced, asking for God to bring the child back to life, making the mother believe it is actually gonna happen. She is gonna get back the 2-year-old child that she lost. But after 6 days, nothing happened. Not only was his mother's heart broken once, but twice, in only 1 week. But putting all of that aside, Butch now had all of the money that he wanted. So what did he do with it? Well, an official website was created for Oaxis, giving some very vague details about what it will be, as shown in a video the YouTuber Pie Guy Rules uploaded in June 2019. It basically continued promising every type of entertainment you can think of, along with having kind of a sus focus on protecting the privacy of the people who sign up for it, and having funny, unintentionally creepy sounding language.
Top security. We aren't messing around. It's your information, period. When you trust us with it, you can be sure we'll protect it. We take this very seriously. After all, you're family now, and we protect our family members. Oh man, I don't really want to be a part of the Oaxis Mafia, if that's alright with you, Oaxis.
Pie Guy also shows in the video a newsletter that got sent to people who signed up to get updates about Oaxis, saying that if they are going to be able to make Oaxis, they are going to need people to give them even more money. And a lot of people already expected $250,000 wouldn't be enough to make an entire streaming service. But Butch Hartman is a guy who has been in Hollywood for decades. Does he not know anyone else in Hollywood who could help him fund Oaxis? And in June 2022, the same YouTuber Pie Guy did a live stream showcasing a leaked Oaxis website, showing what the homepage is likely gonna be like once the streaming service is up, if it ever does go up, along with a ton of categories and content that will seemingly be on it. But almost everything on the website was either videos already on Butch's YouTube channel, content that was made for the Noog Network, and content that he doesn't even legally own, like Sonic the Hedgehog, Among Us, and Among Us 3. You couldn't watch any of the content though, as it was all just a bunch of broken links, and the website was taken down almost immediately after getting leaked. And that was basically the last time we got any updates about Oaxis, other than a quick teaser later in 2021 of what will be some of the content on Oaxis, which was basically just a bunch of stuff that was already on the Noog Network, except for this very low budget looking Blue's Clues type show, The Big Blue Book. And now the Oaxis page that used to have all of the information about what would be on the website has now seemingly also been taken down. There is no Oaxis, and maybe there was never even gonna be an Oaxis. So what else has Butch been up to, aside from not making Oaxis? Well, in 2020, the YouTuber I mentioned earlier in this video who animated multiple videos for Butch, the Ink Tank, uploaded a video exposing how Butch and his team hired him to animate an upcoming show he was making, Imaginathan, and then began actively trying to avoid paying him after ending production on the show through a loophole involving the show never coming out, despite promising to pay him $1,400 even if the show got cancelled. And so like how he often deals with controversies by just not being transparent about them and acting like nothing happened, and that's exactly what he did, not even addressing it publicly to defend himself, aside from saying some passive-aggressive stuff during Facebook live streams about bullies and hate he's been getting, which people interpreted as jabs at the Ink Tank.
We've gone through some hard stuff. We're going through some stuff right now. There's some people, you know, that we get attacked on the internet all the time. And you know what? How do we handle that situation? Do we back down? Do we cower down and get weak and go, oh no, the mean people are being mean to us? Listen. Heck no.
Butch and his wife also expressed a belief that because they know who they are, and God knows who they are, it doesn't even matter what other people say about them. But if they truly are innocent, why don't they just address all of the controversies and tell us their side of the story? In 2020, it also came to light that while he's not making videos on his YouTube channel about animation, Butch and Julian Hartman have been going around giving conferences under the name Healing Journeys about how if you are dealing with medical problems, you shouldn't see a doctor, and instead, all you have to do is pray to God. And if you do that, you can be healed from basically any serious medical disease. And also autism, basically implying autism is on the same level of serious deadly diseases. Oh, and if you do pray but still end up dying from whatever deadly illness you have, then apparently that's because you didn't believe enough. And Butch also had a website at this time for something called Vision Possible, where he would go around giving speeches on how you can make any vision come true. And on the website, you could also invest almost $5,000 to have 2 4-hour-long creative meetings, and then 3 follow-up phone calls. He also had a Vision Possible podcast on YouTube for a while, though now it seems to be inactive. And he also came out with a book in 2020 called Mad Hustle about how you can be successful. All this while still not being able to successfully make Oaxis become a thing, just making him look even more like someone who just goes around scamming people. Despite him making a video in February 2018 about leaving Nickelodeon, Butch actually technically did continue contributing to Nickelodeon into 2019, as he created an extremely cheap-looking animated preschool show, Hobby Kids Adventures, which debuted on YouTube in June 2019, and then on the Nick Jr. app in July 2019. Butch also debuted an internet show in 2019 called The Gowden, which is a still ongoing animated show about the Bible. And hey, if he wants to make some Christian shows, I don't have a problem with that. I say go ahead. But again, why does the animation look so bad? I get it's an internet show, but how is this the same guy who created Danny Phantom and goes around saying how he created everyone's childhood? That big blue book show that was gonna be on Oaxis eventually came out in 2024 on YouTube, and you don't even have to pay anything to watch it. And remember that Butch Hartman drawing academy that people who gave Oaxis $1,000 would be able to attend? Well, I guess that also came out on YouTube in 2024, and that you can also watch without paying any money. I feel bad for anyone who paid $1,000 for that. They must feel like they got scammed. And speaking of scams, in 2024, many people online began talking about commissions Butch Hartman was doing, where if you paid him $200, you would get an image drawn by him. Because not only do many of them look debatably pretty bad, but it also got exposed that multiple of the commissions were just Butch copying and tracing other people's drawings. And again, charging people $200 for it. Talk about a scam. You get what you give, however, as Butch ended up getting his Twitter account hacked by some type of crypto scam in 2022. And then everything he had posted on that account got deleted. And I am not celebrating that happening. I do on some level feel bad for him. It sucks that happened. Getting hacked is never a fun thing. But at the same time, it shows that you gotta be thoughtful about what type of negative stuff you put out there, because it will come back and bite you. Nowadays, his YouTube channel that was once very full of life is now pretty much inactive, at least when it comes to videos. It's kind of a ghost zone. He basically just uses it to upload TikToks. And the only noise nowadays that seems to be keeping him even in the public eye is that one of the animated pilots he made for the Noog Network, Uncle Duck, has achieved a type of Mobius meme status, where people are jokingly asking him to make additional episodes of Uncle Duck, which he does need to do, by the way. It would be so awesome. And he also now has a new Twitter account, which he has been using to post AI-generated animations of his own drawings, making the animation community on Twitter very upset because, well, he's a guy who made multiple animated shows. You would expect him to be above making AI animations, but nope. And he has also been teasing some new animated shows, to which he's been getting many funny comments of people saying stuff like, Butch Hartman threatens to make a new animated show. And it's almost poetic. This guy who seems to think of himself as the next Walt Disney has lost the majority of his, at one point in time, pretty massive fan base, as his career seems to just keep sinking deeper and deeper. But while all of this is going on, the franchises he is most well known for making are actually doing pretty good nowadays on their own. Fairly OddParents came back in 2024 with an animated series, The Fairly OddParents: A New Wish, a sequel to the original show, which had basically zero involvement from Butch Hartman, aside from him being credited as an executive producer because he created the original series it's based on. And fans of the original ended up loving A New Wish, as it seemingly brought back the franchise, but only all of the positive aspects of it. But it was also able to bring back Poof, one of the characters that were introduced in the original series when it was going downhill, and A New Wish did it in a way that actually satisfied fans of the show. And Danny Phantom was also brought back, but not as a TV show. In 2023, a brand new graphic novel, Danny Phantom: A Glitch in Time, came out, and ended up being successful enough that it was announced another Danny Phantom graphic novel would be coming out in November 2025, which might already be out by the time I upload this video. I'm gonna do something different than everyone else I've seen make a video about Butch Hartman. I want to end this video by telling you guys about something called the Hartman House Foundation. In 2005, Butch and Julian Hartman founded a non-profit organization to provide hope to people in need by supplying financial backing and volunteers to organizations that focus on helping victims of poverty, abuse, and abandonment. To give you an idea of what this organization is all about, the Hartman House has provided almost 7,200 U.S. families with Thanksgiving meals, created homes for families in Guatemala, and has funded aid projects for homeless kids in Uganda and Haiti. Why am I telling you this? Because this is a perfect example of the exact type of good stuff people as successful as Butch Hartman can do to make an actual difference. And I'm someone who believes almost everyone deserves a second chance. If one day Butch Hartman can just lighten up on the ego, take an examination of the path he's gone down, and apologize to those affected by his mistakes, I think Butch Hartman could still be someone who leaves behind a legacy of making some absolutely legendary shows and also making life better for those who need it.
We, the Hartman House team, along with Marco Perez's family, have assembled a grand total of 100 bags of food. You'll notice there's 100 bags there. I think we're going to have about 100 families coming to visit today and get their free food and their free clothes.